For years, China's problem-ridden food and ingredients have been wreaking havoc domestically, poisoning its own people. But now, the menace of toxic Chinese food has even seeped across borders. Here, let's look at a number of such cases. We cut to a scene in the bustling streets of France. A Chinese woman is selling dumplings on the street without a license. Little does she know, a team of plainclothes French police officers has been tailing her for a week, gathering damning evidence. The moment of confrontation arrives. The woman, realizing her game is up, complies without resistance as the officers lead her back to her residence. At her door, she feigns forgetfulness, claiming she left her keys at home in a hurry. The seasoned officers, familiar with such tactics, prepare to break in. Panicked, the woman quickly produces the keys and opens the front door. Inside, the scene unravels further. While the woman had delayed the officers, her accomplices had hidden the dumpling fillings. But the police are not easily fooled. They unearth hidden caches of dumpling filling and tens of kilograms of pre-made dumplings from beneath the bed's freezer. And on the kitchen floor, large basins of frozen dumpling filling await thawing. A police officer prods the meat and recoils in disgust. The kitchen's deplorable sanitary conditions are evident. Unwashed pots and pans covered in a thick layer of grime, and in the bathtub in the restroom, more shrimps, thawing in murky water, inducing waves of nausea in anyone who dares look. It's obvious. The woman had transformed this rental into her own illicit dumpling workshop. In the aftermath of the arrest, the Chinese woman, who was making a fortune through nefarious activities, faced the consequences. Her ill-gotten gains from the dumpling sales were seized, and she was fined an additional €25,000. All her workers involved in the dumpling-making operation were apprehended and faced deportation. But the story doesn't end there. The police, following the trail further, discovered the Chinese supermarket, where the woman frequented for her supplies. In a shocking revelation, they find large quantities of unqualified pork, which are dead pigs, unsightly and unhygienic, piled on dirty chopping boards. The supermarket owner, selling this meat at rock-bottom prices to the dumpling seller, who then sold her products at a steep markup to the local Chinese, was also taken into custody. The supermarket was closed and sealed, facing heavy penalties from French law enforcement. The scene shifts across the ocean to an American supermarket. A concerned customer raises questions about Chinese garlic. This man's skepticism does reflect a wider Western mistrust and concern over Chinese food safety standards, regardless of the validity of his opinion. Rome wasn't built in a day. The distrust in Chinese food products around the globe is not a sudden phenomenon, but the result of long-term accumulation of food safety scandals. The domestic food industry in China is rife with fraud and harmful practices. This pattern of people harming each other in society has grown into a terrifying norm of mutual harm. Only the privileged elite, ensconced in their echelons of power, who have access to the so-called special supply, which grants them immunity from the widespread afflictions, could escape the trouble. Here, a consumer's angry denouncement of a restaurant's malpractices, caught on video, underscores the severity of the situation. How can you serve us in such a vile environment? You mix tap water with these deceptive products of new technology and serve it to us. We are regulars at your shop every day. Do you feel no remorse serving this to the children? Can you find your conscience? And here, a Chinese policeman demonstrates in person. Another way of inspection: open the takeaway app, choose among the top 10 bestsellers. This pickled pepper chicken gizzard, for instance, with monthly sales of over 6,000, a top seller. Let's go on site to take a look. The kitchen backstage is filthy and chaotic, extremely unsettling. The refrigeration conditions in the fridge are far from adequate, with items haphazardly stacked and sewage flowing everywhere. This is the kitchen of the top pick in this food category, selling more than 6,000 orders a month. They have never considered whether they deserve trust from consumers. They use their hands and dirty towels to put food into takeaway boxes, looking like they're throwing away trash. Yet, such trash-like food is unknowingly purchased by countless consumers every day. The kitchen environment of Chinese restaurants, especially for takeaways, is generally not open to the public. Their common characteristic is being disgustingly dirty and chaotic. What about street food? Look at this secretly filmed barbecue stall. The owner, perhaps to warm his feet or for some other reason, actually puts his shoe insoles on the grill to toast them when no customers are around. Would you dare to eat food grilled on that stove? When concerns arise about the cleanliness of food preparation, they often pertain to the surrounding environment where the food is prepared. But if the food ingredients themselves are made like trash, eating them is essentially consuming harmful garbage. Yet this dilemma is all too common in China. Do you believe that now in China, becoming a chef who can churn out delicious dishes doesn't require culinary skills or experience? In certain plazas in China, filled with a variety of strange smells, everything sold is designed to instantly turn you into a master chef. Here one can find all sorts of seasonings and ingredients for 99% of the dishes you eat regularly. It seems everyone has become accustomed to the inevitable presence of large amounts of chemical additives in these seasoning products. Quite frankly, whether the food tastes good or not has nothing to do with the cook anymore. The existence of these products simply enables anyone to run a catering business, and a popular one as well. Is the meat cheap imports or fresh produce? Are the meals prepackaged or freshly cooked? Does the milk tea actually contain milk and tea? And is the crab roe in the crab real? The seahorse might be made of plastic, the lamb might be rat meat, the aquacultured seafood might be fed with contraceptives, and eating fruits and vegetables might be equivalent to swallowing pesticides. Can you believe all this? In China, if you ask a Chinese person these questions, they'd look at you with a deep gaze, holding their speech, hinting that they are not unaware, but have no choice but to numbly accept and resign themselves to it. The latest statistics released by WHO show that in 2020, there were 4.6 million new cancer cases in China, accounting for 23.7% of the global total. The number of deaths was 3 million, about 30% of the global total. A December 2023 research paper published online in The Lancet Public Health indicates that in 2020, the number of cancer-related deaths in China was 2.4 million, a 21.6% increase from 2005. China ranks first in the world in terms of new cancer cases and deaths, with the burden of malignant tumors increasing significantly. In 2022, the number of new cancer cases in China was twice that of the United States, and the number of deaths was 5 times. Among these, gastric cancer, esophageal cancer, and colorectal cancer are all among the top 5 causes of cancer death in China, all directly related to diet. As for the relationship to China's rampant use of pesticides and food additives, we leave it to those with independent thinking to ponder. What we do see is that China's official media is still defending and whitewashing food additives. And in the frequent food safety incidents across the country, it's not uncommon for immoral merchants to easily escape responsibility. However, this mutual harming we discussed only exists among the commoners. China's privileged class has no such worries, because the CCP has a long-standing, little-known special supply system. As early as 1941, during the toughest period of the anti-Japanese war, Ren Bishi, the then Secretary General of the CCP Central Committee, established a strictly hierarchical supply system, modeled after the Soviet Union. Soon after Communist China was founded, the CCP's General Office and the Ministry of Public Security started the Shangshan Farm, now called the Zhu Yuan Farm, in Beijing. Managed by the CCP's Central Guard Bureau, this farm is dedicated to quality supply of agricultural produce for CCP's central leaders, establishing a special supply system for high-ranking officials. In 1960, the CCP Central Committee had issued a report on the provision for special care in the supply of grocery foods to senior officials and intellectuals in Beijing. A nationwide special supply system for high-ranking officials was established. To this day, CCP elite in China regularly enjoy safe and healthy pollution-free food supply, including imports. It is not uncommon for central leaders of the CCP to live into their 80s, 90s, or to reach beyond 100 years of age. By now, even counties and district governments have started their own bases for greens. The special supply system of the CCP is marking a class boundary that completely isolates ordinary citizens. The CCP is an authoritarian regime sustained by exploiting the ordinary people. Similar to authoritarian regimes in history, the elite indulged in extravagant lifestyles, while the masses struggled in agony. The general populace struggles to survive in an environment riddled with corruption and lax regulation, leading to low cost of criminal violations in the food sector. The environment naturally encourages food industry practitioners to disregard consumer health, resulting in the proliferation of harmful foods in China. The issue is not just the proliferation of harmful foods within China, but also their spread globally, with Chinese immigration and exports. The reckless and profit-driven practices prevalent within China have been exported abroad. Despite stricter food regulation in Western countries, compared to the almost non-existent oversight in China, incidents like the Chinese woman openly selling contaminated dumplings in France are hard to prevent. Ingredients sold in Chinese supermarkets in places like Flushing, New York, primarily to a Chinese customer base, often escape scrutiny by customs, providing an opportunity for the spread of unhealthy Chinese food products internationally, raising global alarm. On TikTok, content exposing adulterated food ingredients is ubiquitous, with bloggers like Shinji Fei and Liu Song being particularly notable. Their videos reveal how various seasonings and ingredients sold in Chinese food plazas are used to create deceptively real dishes filled with artificial ingredients, highlighting the dire state of the food industry. The appalling conditions in kitchens and the fake foods produced with various additives, which cause discomfort even in viewers, pervade China's social media, indicating how widespread this issue is. The food and dining industry in China is plagued with counterfeit, dirty, substandard, and toxic practices, a problem that not only persists, but grows, reflecting the sad state of existence for the common Chinese populace. The chaos in China's food and dining industry is a microcosm of Chinese society as a whole, where falsity and mediocrity pervade, driven by the CCP. In recent years, various countries have been shutting down Confucius institutes and withdrawing from the Belt and Road Initiative, to reject the exportation of potentially harmful ideologies, and to avoid a new form of colonialism driven by the CCP. And now, the exportation of harmful food products and practices has become another grave matter of concern. In a 2008 incident that nearly caused a diplomatic rift, the image of Chinese food suffered a significant setback in Japan. Japanese authorities detected insecticide in frozen dumplings manufactured by Tianyang Food, a company based in China. According to NHK, Japan's national broadcasting organization, the incident affected over 415 individuals, leading to widespread panic and protests across Japan. This event further damaged the reputation of Chinese food products, already marred by frequent hygiene concerns. Following the incident, Japan's Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare published a list of 19 Japanese companies importing Tianyang products, mandating a comprehensive recall and halt of all Tianyang imports. The recall encompassed a wide range of 88 different products, including processed meats, cabbage meat rolls, and fried pork, totaling 3,800 tons before the recall. Many Japanese importers removed Tianyang products from shelves, with some expanding their recalls to include other Chinese food ingredients. Consequently, about 3,300 restaurants from a number of major chains across the country ceased using Chinese processed foods, as apprehension towards Chinese food products grew within Japan. This incident, involving harm to the Japanese, was met with nationalistic approval within China, similar to the cheer that arises within certain segments of the Chinese population whenever Japan experiences an earthquake. The issue transcends the mere exportation of harmful food products, representing the exportation of a deeply unsettling ideology of hatred and a twisted, inhumane value system. The invasion of adulterated Chinese food products, alongside CCP propaganda, political manipulation, and new colonialism, essentially reflects the toxic nature and global ambitions of the CCP. The CCP's strategy is not limited to subjugating its own people and forming a closed empire within China. It has long been engaged in a substantial and secretive project of infiltration and expansion into the West, becoming increasingly overt in recent years. While the West can certainly reject tainted Chinese food products and make alternative choices, the global ambitions of the CCP pose a more significant and thought-provoking challenge for the civilized world.